Good evening, everyone. Good evening, please.
So many young faces.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, sir. I am Digvijay Shinde, student of Chanakya IPS Academy Pune Center, and I have recently completed my bachelor's in zoology. So today, on behalf of Chanakya IPS Academy Pune Center, please welcome IPS Kanishk Jamkar sir, who achieved an impressive All India rank 614 in UPSC exams. Please give him a round of applause. So, originally from Pune, the sir has earned a bachelor's degree in political science from Ferguson College, followed by a master's degree in political science from Savitribai Phule Pune University. He also holds an MBA in finance from KJ Somaiya Institute of Management, Mumbai. Professionally, sir has excelled as a consultant in the risk advisory team at Deloitte Haskins and Sells, Mumbai, where he provided valuable insights and solutions. His choice of political science and international relations as an optional subject reflects his keen interest in polity and governance. Sir passed the UPSC interview with stunning 201 marks. Now I hand over the stage to our academic coordinator, Megha ma'am. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. मैं मेघा मैम चाणक्य आईएएस एकेडमी की तरफ से आप सब लोगों का यहाँ पे स्वागत करती हूँ। देखो, यूपीएससी के चलते हमेशा ये देखा गया है कि दिल्ली की जो टीचिंग फैकल्टीज हैं, उनका नॉलेज, उनका नोट्स, वो सारा स्ट्रक्चर जो हमेशा और हमेशा जाना गया है कि नहीं, हमें वो सब चाहिए ताकि हम यूपीएससी क्रैक करें। ये हमारी जो चाणक्य आईएएस एकेडमी है, ये दिल्ली की ही इंस्टीट्यूट है, जो नेशनल इंस्टीट्यूट है, जिसके 23 सेंटर्स अक्रॉस द इंडिया है, और अभी आप जहाँ पे हो, दिस इज द ओनली सेंटर इन महाराष्ट्र। सो यहाँ पे भी हम लोग सारा वही स्ट्रक्चर फॉलो करते हैं जो हमारे दिल्ली सेंटर में है, जैसे कि टीचिंग फैकल्टी फ्रॉम दिल्ली, उनके नोट्स है, इंस्टीट्यूट का स्टडी मटेरियल है, या फिर टेस्ट सीरीज है, ये सारा स्ट्रक्चर। और इसमें आपके जो इंटरव्यू प्रिपरेशन का जो है, उसी के चलते जैसे आज कनिष्क सर यहाँ पे आए हैं आपको गाइडेंस प्रोवाइड करने के लिए, उसी तरह से जो इन सर्विसेज ऑफिसर्स हैं वो आके आपको गाइडेंस प्रोवाइड करेंगे। हमारे जो रीजनल हेड सर है डॉक्टर अमित मेढेकर सर, वो भी ऑनवर्ड्स एवरी मंथ आपके लिए एक पर्सनालिटी डेवलपमेंट का सेशन लेने वाले हैं। और जैसे कि चाणक्य का जो पैनल है, जिसे हम लोग मॉक इंटरव्यू पैनल बोलते हैं, वो दिल्ली में ही है। तो ये सारा स्ट्रक्चर आपको यहाँ पे पुणे में हम जो प्रोवाइड करते हैं, देखिए काफी इंस्टीट्यूशंस है, हर एक का अपना तरीका होता है प्रिपरेशन का, स्टूडेंट्स को गाइड करने का, लेकिन हमारे यहाँ पे हम लोग कभी भी प्रीलिम्स और मेंस को बाइफरकेट नहीं करते, बिकॉज जो भी है जीएस, GS is considered as a heart of UPSC. अगर आपका हर एक सब्जेक्ट थरोली प्रिपेयर है, कॉन्सेप्चुअली अगर आप क्लियर है, कमांड ओवर द सब्जेक्ट आपकी हो गई है, तो मेरे ख्याल से MCQ जिसे प्रीलिम्स और आंसर लिखना जिसे मेंस बोलते हैं ना, वो डिफिकल्ट नहीं जाएगा. सो वी आर हियर टू गाइड यू. देखिए हर एक चीज जैसे फैकल्टीज है, नोट्स है, टेस्ट सीरीज है, इंस्टीट्यूट है, लाइब्रेरी है, ये सारी चीजें आप 70% पकड़ के चलो. जब तक कि आपके इंपॉर्टेंट 30% यहाँ पे ऐड नहीं होते हैं, कभी भी यूपीएससी का रिजल्ट क्रैक होना डिफिकल्ट होता है. सो मेरी बेस्ट विशेष आप लोगों के साथ हमेशा रहेगी. बीइंग एन एकेडमिक कोऑर्डिनेटर, आपको जो भी सपोर्ट चाहिए, जो भी गाइडेंस चाहिए, आप मेरे यहाँ पे हमेशा आ सकते हैं. मोस्ट वेलकम. नाउ आई हैंड ओवर इट टू डॉक्टर अमित मेडेकर सर टू फेलिसिटेट डॉक्टर कनिष्क सर.
So good evening everyone. You know there is a lot of difference like हम सारे लोग वहाँ पे स्टूडेंट होके बैठते हैं and at one day we get selected and we sit here. What a feeling. You understand this feeling that so many people they are just like observing you that you have been selected. वो आपको देख रहे हैं, आप कैसे दिख रहे हैं, आपने क्या पहना है, आप कैसे बात करते हैं, every small thing and that is called a success. वो सारे आप लोग जो यहाँ पे बैठे हैं अभी, आप सारे लोगों में पोटेंशियल है, वो कैपेसिटी है, जस्ट यू हैव टू चैनलाइज. आपका बिलीफ, आपका खुद का बिलीफ आपको कभी और कभी एक स्टेप पीछे नहीं, हर बार हर कदम आगे बढ़ने के लिए हमेशा प्रोवोक करते रहना चाहिए. देन ओनली इट इज पॉसिबल. I was discussing few parts and I got to know he is very good speaker. You will love his words when he will start speaking. You will understand. He is very good in the concepts part. He got 201 marks in interview. That we can say these are very good marks in an interview when you having a completely unknown panel. तो उस moment of time पे क्या हो सकता है? Because I have seen कि जब interview होता है तो लोग ऐसे पसीना पूछ रहे हैं, ऐसे करके body language उनकी इतनी abnormal बन जाती है. But when you actually crack the interview, इसका मतलब ये होता है कि you know your capacity, you know your complete potential, और यही हम लोग अभी देखेंगे. So आज हम लोग थोड़ा सा अलग felicitation करेंगे. He is from Pune. We all are right now in Pune. So we have specially bought इसको हम कहते हैं पुणेरी पगड़ी. यू नो दिस पार्ट. ये बहुत और बहुत स्पेशल होती है और वो इसलिए क्योंकि अगर कुछ अच्छा किया है, कुछ अलग किया है, तो इस मोमेंट ऑफ टाइम पे द फेलिसिटेशन लाइक दैट ओनली. तो हम लोग थोड़ा सा अलग फेलिसिट कर रहे हैं. आप लोगों की तालियां जरूर और जरूर अच्छी लगेगी. There is a engraved trophy. This is my name. Stage is yours now. Yes. Okay. वन लाइन. आप सारे लोग भी ऐसे सक्सेसफुल बने और हम लोगों को मौका दे कि आपका भी फेस ऐसे बोले. ठीक है एवरीवन? ओके. थैंक यू सर.
Good evening, everyone. Firstly, I will not I'll make sure that this is not just a lecture from me. I'll make sure that it's an interactive session. So I'll be taking five questions and I'll answer them so that majority of the doubts that you guys have, even before the start of the preparation or during the preparation, or if you have cleared prelims or are appearing for mains this time, so any sort of that communication is there between us. So let's make it more interactive, and then we'll see at the end of the session if there are any more doubts, then I can answer it personally, standing right here. Okay, so I'll take first five questions. Let's make sure that it starts from prelims, then mains, and then interview. So let's go in that order, so that the first five questions, if they are about prelims, let's go about prelims. Whatever doubts you have, you should ask me. I'll write them down, and then I'll answer one by one. Okay, so first five doubts. You can wait on the mic.
Hello.
Yeah, first five doubts. Anyone? See, if you're not going to question, then you're not going to get the answer. So make sure you ask your questions right away, because that's the only time you will meet people who can answer any of the doubts, because we have been through what you guys are thinking of maybe going across. Okay, giving more introduction, like telling you more about my journey. I have failed mains 3 times. Okay, this was my first interview, and by good marks in the interview, I could make sure that I could get a good rank also. So make sure the journey for everyone is going to be uphill, and it's going to be a strenuous on your mental as well as emotional as well as physical needs. Okay, so make sure that whenever you ask by keeping yourself as the center of the point, and ask the questions that always and every time hurt you. Is English fine with everyone, or do I need to be bilingual? Okay. Yes, first down.
Hello. Yeah. Hi. Good evening, sir. My name is Chanakya, and I have this question for you. When it comes to CSAT, we have seen the major part is mathematics and comprehensive. So I just wanted to ask you that what was your strategy to crack CSAT?
Next.
Hello. Good evening, sir. My question is, how did you prepare for the current affairs part of the exam, and the process for selecting an optional?
Next. Anyone? Or should I start answering these questions? Yes.
Sir, I have a doubt that how to start and from where to start, as well as what is the correct strategy for revision.
Okay. Let's start off by the first question that was asked. Current affairs preparation and how. So what's the easiest way to get current affairs knowledge? Anyone? Which newspaper? Hindu and? Yes. How many of you faced issues while reading the Hindu? The language issue, or be it the understanding or the speed issue? Majority of us. That's why I will recommend shift to Indian Express. Okay. Indian Express में पूरा paper नहीं पढ़ना है. Avoid the masala news that go on for 3-4 pages. Okay, that will reduce your time. If the news is about some political party or some political news, you need to skip it. Make sure that you only concentrate on Government of India news. If the Prime Minister is giving a speech somewhere, just try to find what is important and relevant to you. When you are able to understand what is relevant to you in the newspaper, that is when your time, your newspaper will be over within 45 to 50 minutes. I'm not including the editorials here. When it comes to editorial has a different time space of say around 30 to 35 minutes. If you have a PSIR optional or a sociology optional, so maybe 40-45, but not more than that. So entire paper should be over in 90 minutes, not more than that. Okay, now a lot of people ask me questions that how to decide what is important and what is not in a newspaper. So firstly, I'm pretty sure every topper must have told you that have a look at the syllabus. But everyone talks about that look at the syllabus and try to know its topics. I would suggest you try to understand the themes. Okay, the themes are very common and very limited. For example, you may have a theme of women and it's across all the 4 GS papers. There will be a theme about security, whether internal or external, it will be again a common theme. Infrastructure, education, health, sanitation, these are all themes. So when you read an article, don't read it कि ये GS2 का है. अभी recently कोई bill pass हो गया, so don't look at it as if it's just a part of GS2. Look at it towards ethics also. GS3 का भी हिसाब से देखो. So that will help you to realize that syllabus is quite limited when it comes to themes, and it's very interrelated. So that will reduce your effort. I'll come to the note making part when I highlight more about this. Okay, so when in mains, when you're making notes and answers, this thing will help you understanding the syllabus according to the themes. Okay, so when newspaper is done according to the themes, you will be able to make notes either on OneNote or Evernote or by hand, and make sure those each page has that theme, specific theme, and you can add just numbers and just one liner that this is the thing that that had come in the newspaper. Okay, if time permits, I will show my newspaper notes if it's possible. Otherwise, I'll share it with the class and the admin, and they will share it with you. So what happens is when you make it according to a theme, the revision becomes faster. A lot of people ask me that can I rely on any monthly magazines? They can be only a supplementary material. They cannot be the final. The core newspaper, that is Indian Express, has to be there. And if you are able to understand Hindu in a better manner, in a speedily fashion, then go ahead, read Hindu. But either or, just one newspaper is sufficient. Don't go for both. Okay? So current affairs preparation, do I need to make notes of my own? One single liners? Yes. Don't write paragraphs because you're not going to ever open it again. Okay, and that's waste of time. Okay, so current affairs is done. So let's come to how to start prep. So this question, how many of you here are from first year or second year? Okay, and in final degree, final year? Okay, so this is for the first year and second year students. How to start prep is basically firstly go back to the basics and start reading your NCRTs. And you have to make sure that you make notes out of it in the third read and not in the first or the second. Okay, so once you make notes of NCRTs, it's time to keep the NCRTs away because your notes should be so reliable enough that you don't need to go back and open the textbooks. And those should also have the diagrams and everything. So 6 to 12 humanities textbooks, you have to do it. And if you're considering that I may skip NCRTs or whatever, there was a question last year about what do you understand by liberty? Very simple question, but anyone who has not read NCRTs was not able to answer it. So make sure that you stick to NCRTs. इस बार का भी पेपर अगर देखा होगा NCRT based बहुत ज़्यादा था. Okay, so if you have revised your NCRTs well enough, clearing prelims becomes easier. I'm not saying the probability will be 100, but it becomes higher. Okay, so make sure that NCRTs should not be skipped. For the third year students, I would recommend that make sure you read and underline in the textbook itself and write notes over there and keep revising, because if you're planning to give the next year's attempt, if you're not, then again you have to make notes and you have time to do that. After you're done with NCRTs, then is the time to shift to your reference books. What are reference books? Reference books are Lakshmikant, then any of the environment books, PMF वगैरह जो भी है, GC Leong. So ये books secondary stage में आते हैं, primary में नहीं. What is the first thing that we do when we study polity? We'll rush to jump into taking Lakshmikant into our hands. I don't think many of us don't even read the NCRTs for polity. So that kind of lapse does affect in the exam 1 or 2 questions, and those are important. Okay, last year I spent 10 minutes on a single question to get it sorted, and luckily I got it right. but that helped me in clearing the cutoff. So make sure each question is important and you should invest your time rightly in the exam hall. So try to maintain that composure where you have to keep studying from the sources that you already are. ऐसा नहीं कि किसी दोस्त ने बताया कि अरे ये बुक अच्छा है तो you start reading that book immediately. That is going to just waste your time because new addition कुछ नहीं होगा. Hardly 1 or 2 points. Hardly 1 or 2 points उससे ज़्यादा नहीं. But that is not worth investing 60-70 hours. And we have limited time. We have maximum number of syllabus and upcoming topics. So make sure you stick to the time frame, stick to the notes, stick to the static part in such a way that you have a clear thought process. Okay, and a lot of times what happens is that we think that our sources are not enough. So how do we understand if our source is enough or not? After you are done reading your NCERTs for 2-3 times, go and try to solve the PYQs. If you are not able to answer few questions, try to see if it was completely based on NCERT or it had some pointers from outside. If it was completely based on NCERT and still you are not able to solve, that means your conceptual clarity is still lacking. And once that you understand, you have to work to make sure that your conceptual clarity is sorted. Paper application पे आएगा, especially for prelims. Direct questions आजकल बहुत कम आते हैं, so make sure that आपका concept clear हो, especially in the topics like geography. Usually ऐसा question आता ही है. And history में वगैरह try to stick to the new NCERTs. Ancient का ठीक है, but nowadays I think new are sufficient. So ज़्यादा explore भी नहीं करना है static portion wise. Okay, stay limited. Make sure you revise your sources, and that sources will help you. ठीक है? Okay, selecting optional. I would recommend now that you are in first year and second years, your college graduation subject is one of the best subject to go with. But again, इसमें एक attitude and aptitude का test आ जाता है. हम लोग सोचते हैं कि यार एंथ्रोपोलॉजी में अच्छे मार्क्स मिल रहे हैं, PSIR में अच्छे मार्क्स मिल रहे हैं, should I take it? But you may not succeed because if you do not have the attitude towards that subject, पढ़ने का मन ही नहीं कर रहा तो कहाँ से? अगर पढ़ पा रहे हो अच्छे से तो great, but अगर aptitude नहीं हो रहा है तो it's worthless to decide कि इसमें ज़्यादा scoring आ रहा है तो I should take that. If you have an aptitude towards geography, go ahead, take geography because you may find linkages that no one else would, because you have a genuine interest in it. And if your graduation is in it, you already have a base, and you may not have to struggle as much as someone else would have to. Okay, if in case you want to decide a subject with respect to the marks that are being scored by toppers and the highest number of selections, then you may go ahead and decide one, but in that case you have to put in extra efforts. Okay, and notes इसमें optional जैसे करते हो, once you are done with the static books as well as reference books, how to proceed with optional, इसमें दो चीजें हैं. Firstly, go ahead, have a look at the optionals. Optional के जो भी toppers हैं उनके answer copies देखो. Try to understand कि उनके हिसाब से demand of the question क्या है, and demand of the question आने के बाद उन्होंने कैसे उसको handle किया है, उनका presentation of answers कैसे है, how many thinkers have they added, how many specialists they have added, how many books references have they given. Once you understand these small details in their answers and how they scored a plus 280 plus 290 score, that is when you can start studying in that direction. ऐसे नहीं कि reference books उठा लिया आपने पूरा book पढ़ोगा, no, that is again going to waste your time. Make sure your study is limited but effective. Effective preparation is required for you cracking UPSC. Try to have a benchmark. I would say that कोई भी एक टॉपर का आंसर शीट देख के उन्होंने जो स्क्रिप्ट फॉलो की है, follow that script. Try to understand, analyze how they have written answers, and on that basis start preparing. Try to make your own model answers. Try to compare your answers with the topper's answers, and try to get your answers evaluated. This is how you should proceed about optional. Because GS में almost सबके answers, almost everyone's marks are almost 90 to 100, 110. This is like the average range, 400 to 450, every topper will score. So where is the differentiating factor? The differentiating factor is the optional. Okay. CSAT strategy. CSAT strategy mein, what I used to do is, I have seen a lot of people do a lot of mock tests. For me, comprehension language of the classes versus comprehension language of UPSC are two different things. So for comprehension, I always solved UPSC's previous year questions. I did not solve any test series because उसमें understanding का difference आ जाता है. Language of UPSC and expectation of UPSC is completely different. So I would recommend that जितने भी PYQs है comprehension के बस वही solve करो. Understanding के लिए Brennan Martin अच्छे से कर लो for grammar and everything. Reasoning के लिए RS Agarwal is more than sufficient. And mock tests में reasoning के तो रहती ही है questions. Those are comparable. And for maths again, there is book called Arihan Speed Mathematics, which I used to refer to because that book gives all the shortcuts and everything. So you can use that book for having all those shortcuts. And it's one single book with a huge number of questions. Even if you finish it properly, you will be able to clear prelims because at the end of the day, we are not targeting like a plus 100 score. We just need to clear it. Okay, and reasoning and so what helped me in clearing 2023 because I am from a non-engineering background. So my basic strategy always used to be 1 hour of English. So usually English has 25 to 27 questions. So in the first hour I used to always solve those questions. So once those 27 questions are done, I used to get relaxed. And in the second hour I used to solve as many questions of reasoning and maths possible. So I used to do both the things and not just one single so that the insurance was always there. So even during the 2023 difficult paper, I still cleared it. So make sure that you also inculcate this practice of solving both and not just one. And paper solve करते वक्त ego पे नहीं लेना है कि ये question क्यों नहीं हो रहा. This is something I am an engineer, I am from IIT, मेरा तो होना ही चाहिए. ऐसा नहीं है. Thought नहीं लाना है. नहीं हो रहा है. Move on to the next question. There is always a new one to solve. So that will help you to clear and all your hard work of GS1 will go to waste if you don't clear GS2. So make sure CSAT में जितना clear कर सकते हो अच्छे से, make sure you clear it. About revision, like I said, one single liner notes about Indian Express, which आज जो मैंने बताया है, कल before I start the newspaper, I should take it up, I should read it. Once I read it, I should follow it up with anything that has come today in the newspaper. So this practice has to go on and on. ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए that I have read something today and I have forgotten what I have read yesterday. For other things, how I used to divide my day, I will tell you. So I always believe that effective preparation and effective number of hours is the only thing that you should be doing in the library. If you go to a library and you sit for 14 hours but end up reading only 10 to 20 pages, that's not effective. Okay, if you sit for 4 and you finish that much, the same amount of work that someone is doing in 10, then I'll say you are highly efficient. And that's the best thing for UPSC. Make sure that you have a life outside preparation. ऐसा नहीं है कि एक ही चीज कर रहे हैं and you end up being strangled by this preparation in the long run. So make sure you have a life outside UPSC. For me, on Sundays, after 1 o'clock, I used to close my books in the afternoon. I used to have fun, I used to go out, I used to play football, badminton, go for a movie, have good dining. So make sure you have something of this sort to make sure that you are feeling comfortable because you need to be back again on Monday. And my schedule never used to cross 10 hours a day. So 8 to 10 hours was my regular because I had seen with me only personally, when I used to do 14 or 15 hours of session on one single day, the next day I did not feel like going to the library. So it became a problem because the consistency was a big issue here. So what I understood was 8 to 10 is enough and that is only effective. After that I am just frankly sitting in the library and doing nothing. And whatever I am reading is not even getting registered in my head. So make sure that 8 to 10 is something that you follow and you go to the library every single day. Even if you don't feel like studying, you should go there, sit, read the newspaper if you want to and come back, but you should go to the library. If you are in your room and if in case you are not going to a library and you study in your room, the worst thing that you can do is sit on the bed and study. That's the worst thing because after half an hour, everyone knows what's going to happen. So, 3 things that I changed since 2022. I inculcated a sport. I brought in yoga in my morning schedule. And before sleeping, I used to sit in meditation and I used to ask myself one single question. Was my day effective? That made me realize how much how happy I am or how satisfied I am at the end of the day. And how do I keep a track of my own effective preparation? I used to carry a small pocket diary. If I'm sitting at 8 o'clock in the library and I'm opening my newspaper, so I used to write down in the library that 8 o'clock starting newspaper. When I'm done with it, the first thing I'll do is check the watch, write it again. 9:20 paper finished. If I'm taking a 10 minutes break, 9:20 to 9:30 break. हर एक चीज लिखनी है till the time you're in the library. And before you leave the library, total number of hours studied, total number of breaks and time compare करो. Write down the total time and ask yourself this question before you leave, that was it a productive day? Second thing, on the other page, I used to write my objectives of the day. क्या क्या करना है आज के दिन, and 5-6 things are going to be there. So उसमें से कितने tick हो गए हैं and कितने cross, उस हिसाब से I could decide that how effective my day was. So once you start doing this will bring in the consistency, and consistency is important for UPSC. Then comes the hard work, then comes patience, and then comes luck. Okay, make sure that consistency is the first thing that you target. And please, I'm not saying it because I have personally done this since 2022 and I'm telling you this. Because if you really want to clear this examination, the probability of clearing is very less. We know what's the success rate. It's less than 1%, 0.01 maybe. So make sure that you bring in some changes, subtle changes in your lifestyle, which make sure that you have mental ability to clear this examination. Okay. And revision, yeah, one more thing about revision is when you make these notes, NCERT notes that we talked about after the second or the third reading, these notes you have to reread every 2 to 3 weeks, subject wise. And not entirely, just ऊपर से glance करना है, because after reading for 2-3 times, anyway it's going to be there in your head. So you just need to have a cursory read, and you will realize that you are doing fine. Like for history, there is a question about timelines. Nowadays, UPSC asks questions with respect to timelines. How do you remember timelines? You can't actually, because there's so much to remember. But when you close your eyes and you see that, oh, I had a cursory reading, जिसमें top में पल्लवास दिख रहा था, then you know पल्लवास पहला था. That gut feeling will come to you, and this gut feeling develops only after you have repeated revisions. Okay, so make sure that you have a repeated revision sequences, and इसमें Feynman technique वगैरह जो भी है, you can use them. Castle technique है, Feynman technique है, जितने भी memory techniques हैं, you can use them. But re-revision is the key. Even if you read it like a novel every single time, that's okay. But make sure you speed read it. Okay, and other thing, yes. One of the major problems that a lot of people face is we do not have a habit of reading. So when we read, we reread to ourselves in a mental presence. Like वही words यहाँ पे सुनाई देंगे हमें. So there is a small book called Speed Reading. You can go through it, 30-40 pages, and you will realize that what all wrong we do while reading. And we know under UPSC we have to read a lot. So how to finish one booklet in say a day or two, 80 pages का booklet 2 दिन में खत्म हो जाना चाहिए. But I don't think ज़्यादा लोगों का होता है. So make sure that you understand how to read as well. Small changes है. And ये सब मैंने किए हैं, इसलिए I think it worked for me. So I will recommend कि आप भी थोड़ा changes करो. It's incremental. ऐसा नहीं कि कल जाके सब करना है. एक चीज करो. ठीक है? Let's take the next 5 questions. And if you have doubt on this as well, you can ask that. Am I audible at the back?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir. सब लोग बोल
माइक पास करो, ये ऑनलाइन ही चल रहा है ना, बात में
माइक के लगे
हेलो सर सर आई हैव 2 क्वेश्चंस. फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल इज सब लोग बोलते हैं कि एडिटोरियल करो. सो मतलब करंट अफेयर से तो पूरा आइडिया आ ही जाता है कि क्या चल रहा है देश विदेश में, बट व्हाई ओनली एडिटोरियल, मतलब इतना एम्फसाइज क्यों होता है एडिटोरियल्स के ऊपर?
Actually, editorial में when you write something, say for example, we know what is going on around Ukraine and Russia, or India, Pakistan, or anything of that sort. What we say is generic knowledge. Unless supported by some scientist or some renowned person, does it carry value?
Okay.
Does it carry value?
No.
No.
So once you substantiate it with someone who is world renowned in that matter, in that field, then automatically your answer carries weight. And in the news, we get just the news, not some who has said what. In the editorial, we will get that. That's the reason we focus so much on the editorials. This is usually good for sociology, anthropology, and PSIR students, but not for everyone. Okay. Because you don't need this kind of references in GS papers.
So one more question related to mains. आपने बोला कि like आपने 3 times mains दिया है, but still you were unable to go crack it. So what were the mistakes and like what are the lessons for us?
Yes. Next question.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, sir. First of all, a very hearty congratulations on your achievement and thank you so much for sharing your time with us. So my question is, I don't know whether it's a myth or perception or anything else which we call. Everyone says that there's a specific trend which UPSC follows for conducting the preliminary examination. So I also tried once or twice to do that, but by the time I ended, I came to a conclusion that there's nothing relevant or there's a 0% chance which I got to follow that there's something new in this. So what's this actually? So what are we supposed to do to actually search what trend UPSC is following as per the preliminary examination perception?
Sir, good evening, sir. What kind of questions were you asked in the interview?
Okay. I think the interview at last.
Sir. Hello, sir. Sir, how to tackle the essays? Essay. And how to increase the writing speed?
Sir, how to start answer writing?
Okay. So,
Sir, there is one more question. As many of us are taking the coaching classes, but we know that self-study is also very much important on day-to-day basis. So I just wanted some insights from you to how to balance, self-study and the coaching classes.
What should be the pattern of the answers, like point-wise, paragraph, and conclusion is important. So
that's I will take it as a part of answer writing only. Okay, I'll start answering. I'll take the question later. So the question says that what are the mistakes that I committed in the previous attempts and in this one I did not. So what are the changes I made? So firstly, in one of the mains, there was absolutely no answer writing. मतलब एक भी आंसर नहीं लिखा था, बस पढ़ लिया और चले गए आंसर लिखने. And what happened was paper 1 अच्छा जाता था, paper 2 में हाथ काम नहीं करता था. So I used to literally drag my hand like this to write the answer. So in the second one, I started writing a lot and I made frameworks. Again, no answer writing, just frameworks of the answer. Did not work. In the third one, I wrote answers and I was pretty confident. I could not understand how I did not. But and then in the last one, what I did was I solved almost all the PYQs. I made sure that I have a booklet of answers from each theme possible. And I used to carry that only to the exam hall as well as the previous week. And I used to keep reading my own answers to myself. So उसमें stats भी थे, statistics, उसमें model introductions थे, model conclusions थे, हर topic का body था, and each specific PYQ had a specific answer written for me. So I used to keep reading those only in the last week of examination, and I think that worked for me because whenever I used to see a question about any of the topic that I have read before, the model answer that I have written, मुझे वही याद आता था, and I used to write that only. And that's how it I think it helped me the most in ethics because I scored around 117 in it. Because at that point of time, I had practiced so much about ethics, solving all those case studies as well as the answers, that I ended up writing the same way that I had practiced. Help you. An exam practice and a Vikram. And I made sure that I'm used to that pen and it's hold and it's writing. And presentation is really important. So पहले से होता था that I used to write and मेरा presentation इतना अच्छा नहीं होता था. There were no diagrams at all.
अभी आ रहा है ना.
So I used to just write. I had the points. I used to think that I can write. And I used to finish the paper. But later on I realized that infographics have more impact than just words. So infographics, flowcharts, diagrams are very important while presenting your answers. So make sure that when you're practicing your answers, try to think in that infographic format. That 4 points set. So instead of simply writing 1, 2, 3, 4, make a round and give it 4 lines and then write the pointers. So that will help you. इसके लिए क्या है? You can refer to any of the toppers' answer sheets. Like for me, I referred for ethics. It was Vishakha Yadav ma'am's answer sheet. For essay, I used to refer Anudeep Duri Shetty sir's essays. For GS1, I used to refer to Srushti Deshmukh ma'am's answer sheets. So refer to these toppers' answer sheets so that you understand what are the demands and how they have approached. Okay, so this is like the base material that you need at the start of writing answers. There is a question that how should I start writing answers? So try to understand what are the needs. And there is a difference between evaluate, comment, discuss, critically analyze. These all have a different meaning. So इनका meaning पहले जानना है. If you don't know their meaning and you are writing an answer, then you are missing out the crux of the exam and the examiner won't give you marks. So make sure you understand what is the demand. Consequences, impact, ये words के भी अलग-अलग होते हैं meaning. So you make sure you understand. You have 15 seconds in the exam hall to understand what exactly the question demands. So make sure that you understand these words thoroughly, and the moment you see these keywords, you should know topic के बारे में क्या पूछ रहे हैं. Okay, so that is how you have to start answer writing. You have to firstly understand the demand of the question. And if your demand of the question, understanding is appropriate, then writing the answer becomes simpler. And answer should be in point format if it's in GS. If it's optional, then go with the paragraphs. And अगर essay है, तो make sure it has interlinkages. ऐसे नहीं कि एक topic से दूसरे topic jump कर रहे हो और समझ में भी नहीं आ रहा कि कहाँ खत्म हुआ कहाँ शुरू. So make sure you have a transitioning lines. Like as we have seen economy aspect of business criteria, now let's look forward for the social aspects. When you tell that it's switching, the examiner understands कि अच्छा अभी economy खत्म हो रहा है, अभी social की तरफ हम जा रहे हैं. So try to have these connecting lines, or maybe you can use quotes as connecting lines. So अभी किसी गांधी जी का अगर कोई quote डाल दिया, तो उसका मीनिंग ऐसा होना चाहिए that it correlates with the new topic that you're taking up, and then start writing as Gandhi ji has said in this quote and explain the quote and how it relates to your topic. So this will help you create a story narrative. Essay, what is essay basically? Essay is not an article. Essay is not simply writing a GS answer. Essay is something that makes the reader interested in what your thought is about the topic. So make sure it's a narrative which gives anecdotes, stories, examples, and makes it more interesting. When it's interesting, you will score marks. And if in case you have more doubts about this, I think Duri Shetty sir has explained it very well in his WordPress, where he has given how to go ahead with the essay, how to write a wonderful essay. So I followed him. I followed everything that he had said. So one of my personal bests in essay is around 130, 135 marks. So essay is the least input but maximum benefit. सबसे कम पढ़ना है लेकिन सबसे ज़्यादा marks ला सकते हो. So make sure you write weekly one essay, and वो भी कैसे लिखना है? Firstly you make a framework. Half an hour, 20 minutes में you make a framework, and the framework that I have followed was P-Pestel. So P-P-E-S-T-E-L. Now everyone knows pestel format here. So उसमें बस philosophy add करना है. For those who don't know, what I go with, P-Pestel is philosophy, political, economic, social, technological, environmental, legal. So when you cover these all aspects in an essay, your essay is going to be a holistic essay. then you can bring in your SWOT analysis हो गया या फिर और दूसरा कोई analysis लाना हो तो वो भी ला सकते हैं, but deep still has to be there. So philosophy में क्या है, you start a story with start the essay with a story and relate that story every single time wherever you're changing the frame. And जब conclusion आएगा, so for example if you are talking about say two orphan children and then we are talking about the government, if in the conclusion we are talking about how government can work and make sure that orphans are not facing this kind of issues, then we can at the end we can write X and Y. If the government does its job right and the society prevails in its motion, then we can have X and Y having a liberal life. ऐसे complete the story. Start किया था problem दिखा के end कर रहे अच्छा कुछ positive note पे. So this will give you extra benefit and extra marks also. So ऐसे में ये चीजें याद रखने की जरूरत है. It has to appear interesting, it has to be interesting, and it has to end on a positive note. Okay, trend of UPSC. There was a question asked about trend of UPSC. There, I don't think there is any analysis that you can do. And if you're spending time trying to analyze, I think you're giving away your important precious time in finding the trend. So don't try to do it. Cover syllabus as much as possible. You have a defined syllabus, but whatever comes under it is not defined. But you can always see, for example, in prelims we know that 15 to 20 questions polity के आएंगे, 15 to 20 economic, 15 to 20 environment, 5 to 10 science and tech. So already we have reached 70 questions. History पूरा ancient, medieval, modern के around 10 to 15 आ ही जाता है. So you know 85 questions are going to be there from these particular things, and you should also think about your strengths and weaknesses. Like for example, someone may have strength in polity, eco and geography. Then he can concentrate on those three subjects in such a way that उसमें accuracy level 90% रहे. So even if there are 45 to 50 questions and he is having an accuracy of 90% in that particular three subjects, then what will happen is 45 में से 50 में से he may get 40 correct. That's almost 80. We know how much the cutoff goes nowadays. And बाकी के इसमें 60 to 70% accuracy भी चल जाएगा. Don't make a fuss over I should complete the entire syllabus. मुझे हर एक subject अच्छे से आना चाहिए, नहीं. Focus on very targeted effort. Like polity 90% accuracy बहुत लोगों का आता है. Economy almost the same. Then shift to history, modern में भी accuracy अच्छा होता है. Then go to medieval and ancient जिसमें accuracy immediately dwindles down because कहाँ से आ रहा है पता नहीं. फनम तो मैंने पहली बार सुना था. Exam hall में बैठे. Although I had read a lot of books. But then this kind of things are going to happen. So make sure that कुछ sideline करके रखना है. Science and technology में questions ऐसे आते हैं that you have read that in the newspaper. Bio-rock वगैरह हो गया newspaper में काफी बार आ चुका है. मियावाकी plantation हो गया वो भी आ चुका है. So make sure that newspaper जब पढ़ोगे तो उसके related ही आएंगे. So this way you have in your hand 65 to 70 questions which you can attempt, and उसमें से you can get at least 55 to 60 correct. Your attempt does not need to be 100. It can go down to 90 also, but your accuracy has to improve. For example, I know my accuracy is somewhere around 65 to 70%. So I know how many questions I should attempt to score more than the cutoff. But if your accuracy is just 50%, then you need to rethink how many questions you can attempt and how many marks you can get. Okay, so it's all about knowing where you stand in prelims. Prelims में आपको कोई आके help नहीं कर सकता, कोई topper आपको बता नहीं सकता that this is the foolproof way to clear. You have to know your self-acknowledgement होना चाहिए, इतना accuracy level है. Solve as many PYQs as possible. Solve as many mock tests as possible. Like in 2022, I had solved over 85 tests in 3 months. And in one last month, I had solved questions from almost 1995 या 96 से लेके 2021 तक. Almost all PYQs. So that is the number of questions I had solved personally. Now, I don't know, there are few people who can just get, they have a knack for MCQs. They can get any answer correct without even having a knowledge of it. But there are few who have absolute, ऐसे पूछ तो सब बताएंगे. But paper दे दो, they will make it wrong. So make sure that you have that satisfaction with you that yes, I have prepared. And secondly, you should have that relaxed approach. The MCQs है, I can solve it. The answer is right there. When you have that sort of a thought process, then yes, you can clear it. but make sure that stress नहीं लेना है. I'll talk about one more thing. Let me finish the questions that have been asked. Okay, so that's trend analysis करने मत बैठो, अपना पढ़ाई करो. Think about your strengths and weaknesses. Work on your weaknesses and effort ज़्यादा देना है. But once you start revising, here's one thing that I had seen. हम लोग सबसे पहले रिवीजन में क्या लेते हैं? We take quality ले लेंगे. क्यों? Because it's easiest to finish. But don't do it like this. Take your weakest and hardest subject right at the start. You have the maximum energy at that point of time, and then go to your best. Because your best does not need a lot of revision. You already have a lot of things in your head. A cursory read will help you. Just make sure that you read your weakest first and your best at the last, and solve as many questions as possible. जिस दिन जो topic पढ़ा उसके question solve करो. That's going to help you in prelims.
Prelims is all about solving questions. Because knowledge सबको आ ही जाता है, but conceptually वो clear है या नहीं वो question से ही पता चलेगा. Okay, and so we have talked a lot about IQ right now, like ये पढ़ लो वो पढ़ लो.
There is something called as EQ, emotional quotient in the examination hall. Emotional question की वजह से you can sit in the exam hall and decide what to take as a risk, what not to attempt as a risk. And nobody talks about this EQ thing in India or in competitive services. You may have the knowledge, but I have seen a lot of people simply blank out. याद ही नहीं आ रहा, पढ़ा था कल परसों ही पढ़ा था लेकिन याद नहीं है. So how do we make sure that it's okay? Okay, so how do we work on EQ? EQ पे काम करने के लिए 3 चीजें आप कर सकते हो. Firstly, get a sport, any sort of outdoor sport, be it badminton, even walking for that matter, or any of the sports, swimming वगैरह भी चल जाएगा. Get into the habit of doing yoga, because yoga and meditation will help you make your mind work. When we play sport, it's going to work out your body, and we are studying and we are mentally fatigued. Then how do we get back to normal? So make sure that we have exercises in our schedule which work on our mental health. That is yoga and meditation. Do not think that ये ऐसे प्रवचन है, नहीं. It helps. ठीक है? I know सब लोग ऐसे सोचते हैं कि यार नहीं होगा, इससे क्या होता है, फर्क नहीं पड़ता है. नहीं, you will realize कि over a period of time आपका efficiency बढ़ रहा है. It's all a game of efficiency. अब हर एक कोई 6 से 8 घंटा पढ़ रहा है. How are you any different from the person sitting on your left or right? These are subtle things that you need to do in your preparation will make sure that how different you are from them. Answer writing सब करेंगे, but targeted answer writing जो करेगा उसका clear होने के chances ज़्यादा है. Make sure that you have PYQs in your mind when writing answers, themes in mind when writing answers, and work on your emotional question. Temperament, mental temperament is very important and is essential in this examination. After every repeated failure, you need to bounce back. You need to start preparing again. You need to start from ground zero. How do you do that? You do that when you are mentally strong. You have effective communication with yourself. You cannot lie to yourself. You can lie to people, but you cannot lie to yourself. So make sure you have that connect with yourself, that where try to face the reality. I have seen a lot of people who are not willing to solve papers because they think they will score less marks and people will laugh. They are not willing to write answers because they think they may not write well and people will laugh. But are you there to worry about what people are going to say and what not? At the end of the day, after the result is out, anyway, either you are in and they will see you in high regards, and either you are out and people will be like, "अरे इतना पढ़ के भी नहीं हुआ." So don't worry about the people. Have a mental connect. Have a connection with yourself. Ask yourself the right questions. Get yourself to answer the most difficult part, and that's how you will realize where do you stand. Do you have a fair chance of clearing this examination? Every single time you have to have this belief that yes, I can, and this can only come through your connection with yourself, where your mind tells you that yes, you are in the right track. That's the reason I said at the end of the day, when you are done preparing, sit with yourself, ask yourself these 2 questions. Was it an effective day? Was it a good preparation day? If the answer is yes and yes, go to have a good night's sleep and then again start studying again tomorrow for the same thing. Okay? Writing speed increase करने के लिए there is only one thing: write as much as possible. I used to write personally for the last 2 years, 4 to 5 hours every single day. There is no other way to do it. Okay, हम बचपन से लिखते आ रहे हैं, अभी बीच में आदत चली जाती है. So make sure you start writing again. But when you write, make sure your presentation is also worked upon. Presentation is important. Okay, presentation की वजह से 25% marks extra मिलने के chances आ जाते हैं. ठीक है, दिव्या कीर्ति सर का मैंने देखा था that if your handwriting is nice, 25% you are already in. So make sure you work on your handwriting, you work on your presentation, you work on every aspect where it shows that you know the answer, even if you don't know. Okay. How to balance coaching and self-study? Okay. So classes do help you to align your preparation. They will give you a peer group. They will give you guidance, but that is only 30 to 40% of the preparation. It will not take you to the end goal. Self-study is required. And self-study करने के लिए you need a peer group, you need a guidance mentor, and lastly, एक self-acknowledgement कि ये मुझे करना है. So make sure that you keep majorities. 70% of the time you have to dedicate to your self-study, 30% of the time towards the classes, and जब ये 70% में से भी when you're preparing for prelims, make sure that you read and make notes in 60 to 40 ratio. While preparing for mains, it's again 60 to 40%, 6 hours of reading, 4 hours of writing, and this is how you keep on making sure that the right thing is required. Like for prelims, it's read a lot and solve MCQs. In mains, it's write a lot and solve PYQs. And for the interview, it's all about your character. It's all about your personality. Okay, so these are the 3 steps that UPSC will check at every different point. Have I missed anything? Okay. Next question. Yeah.
Sir.
Hello.
Sir, one question about answer writing here.
Yeah.
So, about answer writing, should we stick to the content or at least attempt to write more than required?
Stick to the word limit, you mean?
Content.
Content.
I mean, word limit में ही should the content be more deep or should it include everything that?
It depends on the subject that you are appearing. If you are writing about GS, the name itself says it has to be general. Don't go too deep. If it's about your optional, then it has to be a bit scholarly. Okay, but when you're writing GS, make sure your answer is formal English. Okay, and it has to be legally right. Okay, and when you're writing optional, make sure it's scholarly and legally right. So ऐसा नहीं कि कुछ गलत लिख कर आ गए. If you're using Latin prose, then make sure that Latin words and their meanings are also rightly used in the framework. Just to make sure that your answer looks fancy. No, it doesn't work. The people who are going to check are going to be super, like very old professors, very well-learned professors. So they have ample of experience to read anything and everything just by a sentence. And a lot of people do ask me, I'll just add on to that, 1 to 20 solve करना है या 11 to 20 first solve करके then switch to 1 to 10. So it depends, it's a personal choice, nothing different in it. But personally, in this attempt, I made sure that I solved 1 to 20 in one go and not moving around, because I realized that पहले 11 to 20 solve करने के बाद 1 to 10 में मेरा presentation बहुत खराब होता था. So I made sure that I started off from 1 to 20 in one go.
So apart from that, I would like to know that all this time that you have invested in preparing for the exam, what kept you motivated and how did you manage to persevere throughout the journey?
What kept me motivated? Okay, motivation can be different for every single one. Okay, I think motivation firstly तो खुद का भी होना चाहिए, that the belief that you want to do it. Secondly, your peer group, your family, your parents, if they all are also a part of your dream, then they keep you motivated in the same thing. And thirdly, I think I was actually not satisfied with my job in the private. I used to, I was feeling that I was doing too much of for a company which I could actually do for the society. So that personal realization that this is not something that I can do for life is something that drove me towards civil services examination. And I think you can find your own motivation through your own self and why. So the question that I keep asking myself every single time after failure was, why did I come to this in the first place? And when you have that answer ready in your mind, I'm sure that's enough motivation.
Thank you, sir.
Next question.
Sir, I had the question that when you are reading the NCERT books, so how should we keep the note you are saying that you should read the book 3 or more times and then you should remove the notes. So how to keep the track that we have read this and the important part is this.
So the first cursory reading should be like novel. Just read it. The second one, try to understand the concepts and important part. And in the third one, make sure you highlight. And those highlighted part hai, that will go into your notes. Because if you will understand, if you will underline in the first reading, you will underline the entire book. I think everyone does that. So that's why everyone's Lakshmikant is red, blue and yellow. Anyone else?
Hello sir.
Yes.
Which skill are important? Which skill are required for an interview and who can improve it?
Okay. Skills for interview. I'll take this question at last. Yes, there was some.
What should be the approach to deal with the ethics question and what are your strategy?
Ethics question, okay. So ethics question, I refer to Lexicon IS. Lexicon का एक book आता है. So I refer to that. I read through it. फिर Harvard Review का मैंने एक Justice करके एक series है YouTube पे. Harvard का free of cost YouTube पे lectures है Justice. वो मैंने पूरे देखे थे. So उसमें से एक understanding आ गई what exactly ethics is about. So you can have a look at that. 7-8 lectures, maybe not more than that. And lastly, try to understand all the keywords जैसे probity, integrity जितने भी हैं, ये सारे words खुद के language में समझ जाओ. So when I look at probity, what's the first word that reminds me? Like if I'll ask someone to talk about probity, does anyone know what probity stands for? Even in Hindi or Marathi, local language. No? So simple word है. The moment I'll say probity म्हणजे सत्यनिष्ठा. आता सगळ्यांना समजेल. So make sure तुम्ही हे changes करा. म्हणजे तुम्हाला कळेल बेसिकली की आपण कशाबद्दल बोलतोय. मग इंटिग्रिटी आणि प्रोबेटी मध्ये फरक काय? What is the difference between say इमोशनली अटॅच होणं किंवा एम्पॅथी किंवा कंपॅशन, हे जे मायन्यूट डिफरन्सेस आहेत हे तुम्हाला तुमच्या लँग्वेज मध्ये माहित पाहिजे. So that whenever you use it in the language while writing the paper, your answer will be accurate. Because if you don't know the meaning of it, you will end up giving the wrong meaning to the person who is reading it. Who all have faced this problem that when they write an answer and they read it, they know the answer after 3-4 days, they go like, what have I written? Okay, it's a 10-marker question. You have to be very crisp, you have to be clear, and you have to write in such a way that you provide the exact same meaning what the question is asking for. How does that happen? Keep writing and try analyzing your own answers. Don't be afraid to write. Don't be afraid to solve the papers. Maybe you're scoring 60 today, but after 6 months you will be scoring 90. That's practice, that's hard work. But make sure you solve in the first place. Start writing answers. You may be scoring 3.5 out of 10, but after 6 months you will be scoring 5. Okay, compounding effect सबको पता है. Compounding effect में every single day whatever you put in will help you accrue more interest, and that will work in your favor. That's the reason it's said, right? UPSC is not a race, it's a marathon. Because every single day you practice, you keep revising, you keep studying. 2 वर्षापूर्वी वाचलेलं अचानक पेपर मध्ये दिसतं and you go happy. But someone who has just prepared for 6 months, he may not even understand. He may not even know that concept. Okay, so that's the difference. So make sure you keep reading the newspaper. And one more advice that I will give, आज पढ़ने का मन नहीं है, क्लास में जायचा इच्छा नहीं है, you just want to have an off the entire day, then at least read the newspaper. At least. Because that's one thing, that's one practice which will keep you connected. And moreover, why? Because there is no limit to current affairs. Every single day when you study, current affairs will keep changing. And आजचा पेपर मिस केला म्हणजे काय? 2 दिवसानंतर आपल्याकडे 3 पेपर आहेत वाचायला. And एवढा टाइम नाहीये वाचण्यासाठी. So दररोजचा न्यूजपेपर झालाच पाहिजे. Once you are done with newspaper every single day, तुमचं तेवढा एक करंट अफेअर्सचा पार्ट बाजूला ठेवला तुम्ही दररोज करून. अँड इफेक्टिव्ह युटिलायझेशन ऑफ टाइम होत राहणार. स्टॅटिक मागे नाही पडणार. नाहीतर करंट अफेअर्स करत स्टॅटिक पूर्ण मागे राहील किंवा स्टॅटिक करत करंट अफेअर्स मागे राहील. सो मेक शुअर इक्विटी राहील दोघांमध्ये. अँड UPSC डज लुक फॉर ऑब्जेक्टिव्हिटी न्यूट्रॅलिटी. ओके, सो मेक शुअर तुमच्या आन्सर्स मध्ये गोल्डन मीन, दिस इज लाईक द बायबल फॉर यू. गोल्डन मीन दिसलं पाहिजे. असं नाही की एक्स्ट्रीम सांगताय बेस्ट केस पॉसिबल सिनेरियो, वर्स्ट केस पॉसिबल सिनेरियो. नो, you have to have objectivity in it. You have to follow the middle path and what is doable. Once you follow this doability, it will help you fetch marks. ठीक आहे. एथिक्स मध्ये केस स्टडीज मध्ये आपल्याला ते विचारतात व्हॉट आर द ऑप्शन्स अवेलेबल. सो त्याच्यामध्ये बेस्ट केस सिनारिओ, गोल्डन मीन, वर्स्ट केस सिनारिओ, अँड देन टेल दॅट आय विल सिलेक्ट द बी पॉइंट बिकॉज त्याच्यासाठी रिझन्स असतील. ऍप्लिकेबल आहे, त्याचा यूज करू शकतो, रिसोर्सेस लिमिटेड असल्यामुळे आपल्याला ते सगळ्यात बेस्ट राहणार आहे, डज नॉट हर्ट द सिस्टम. मग त्याचे काही रिझन्स असो. सो गोल्डन मीन जेव्हा तुम्ही दाखवता केस स्टडीज मध्ये, इट रिफ्लेक्ट्स युअर अंडरस्टँडिंग ॲज अन ॲडमिनिस्ट्रेटर. यू आर नॉट देअर एज अ रिसर्चर, यू आर देअर एज अन ॲडमिनिस्ट्रेटर. सो यू नीड टू शो दॅट व्हॉट यू आर ट्राइंग टू से कॅन बी डन बाय द गव्हर्नमेंट. यू कॅनॉट सिम्पली से आय चेंज द सिस्टम. नो, इट डजंट वर्क. ठीक है.
So in the initial phase of answer writing, should we have to stick to the word count, or we can just write as much as we can for the first?
See, there's a saying that practice makes man perfect. So if you're going to go with beyond your word limit, what are you practicing for? So stick to your word limit, because that is the practice that you need to have for perfection. When you write an answer, make sure that what you need to replicate in your exam hall is something that you practice for.
So actually I have 2 questions. The first one is regarding interview. So it's said that it's definitely not necessary to answer each and every question which is asked to you unless and until you have a thorough knowledge of it. So is it true, or should we at least make an effort to at least try to understand what the interviewer is asking? So that's the first question. And second one, it's my personal question which I face problems a lot of times. So basically if I'm solving a paper and I get my 2 answers wrong, so I think that the water is up to my knees right now. So again moving forward, if I get my 8 questions wrong, so I think that I'm drowning into the water and there's definitely not a wave which is going to get me out of this. So this process actually kills my whole enthusiasm and my whole confidence as well. So any tips that how should I tackle this situation, which I face every time when it's all
Prelims, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So prelims मध्ये असं बरेचदा होतं की आपण 1-2 क्वेश्चन्स बघतो आणि त्यानंतर आपल्याला वाटतं की आपल्याला येत नाही. मोराल गोज डाऊन. And once that happens, even something that you know cannot be solved. So how to tackle this? Actually, one thing that you can tell yourself is the cutoff is never beyond some certain amount of marks, say for 95 or 100. So that gives you leverage of how many questions. If we consider on a very easy way, almost 20 to 25 questions are something that you can consider as a leeway. So even if you're not able to answer 20 questions, you can still clear the examination. Thought has to kick in your back, and we fail to see that. So once, what thing I used to tell myself is while practicing questions, if I cannot solve it in 30 seconds, I will not solve it. While giving mock test, I used to solve the entire mock test, full length tests. My record is 35 minutes. 35 minutes I'll solve the paper and I'll move out. And then I'll sit and check the answers where I'm wrong. Why? Because you cannot spend 6 hours solving a paper for 2 and then revising and checking your answer copies for next 4. When are you going to study them? So make sure you solve your entire answer, the paper plus its solution key in 3 hours max. Try to solve the paper in 1 hour. That's sufficient because JS में इतना time नहीं लगता है, frankly. Question जो नहीं आता वो नहीं आता. You can't change anything sitting in the exam hall. You are not going to get any divine intervention and say that, oh, इसका answer ये है. Okay, so make sure that if you cannot solve it, move on. It's practice. Try not to decode, because even if you hack it right now, you may not hack it later. You need to read about it. Okay, and this will help you to analyze your accuracy levels. And once your accuracy level is at optimum levels, then you can start testing your knowledge with respect to the questions that you don't know. And then you will realize the risk factor kitna hai, how much risk you should take and how much you should not. So in risk, what I used to do it, if I just know one option and the rest 3 are unknown, I will not answer those questions. Okay, but the moment I am cancelling out 2 options, I will take a shot, because the probability of getting that has crossed 50% plus, because there is a change in variable change ko account karke I used to be like, okay, probability of getting this right is higher, so I should take this shot. So once I cancel out 2 options, I used to take that shot. So like that, my attempt usually ranged from 80 to 85. I used to let go of 15-20 questions every single attempt. Okay, so you can also inculcate that habit. And once you're solving mocks, you try to find out your strengths. Once you understand your strengths, you can really analyze how to answer the questions. Okay, this is something that you need to do for yourself, because everyone will have different strengths. Then there was one more question. Okay, the other 3 are with respect to the interview only. Do we have any more doubts with prelims and mains? Yes.
Sir, my question is optional subject. What was your strategy to score more marks in optional subject? PSI.
I referred, I have a group on which I have shared all my sources and everything. It's by my name only on Telegram. So Kanishk Jamkar AIR 614. So that's my Telegram channel where I have shared all my PDFs and source material and everything, and notes also. So you can have a look at it. For PSIR, what I did was I followed IGNOU notes, and my graduation was also in that. So a master's as well. So I had pretty decent hands-on knowledge with respect to it. But the most important aspect of PSIR was writing answers, because in that I had a reference to Ishita Kishore ma'am's answer copies along with Satyam Gandhi sir's answer copies. So these are the 2 people I referred to in my preparation. So you guys can also have a look at their answer copies. Once you understand how they have written, how they have analyzed, you will have a quick understanding of how to approach for optional. But optional has 2-3 distinct points from GS. Firstly, for political science, it's a huge subject, so your editorials need to be perfect. For IR especially, you have to spend more time in what thinkers have said and what other people are talking about international relations or with respect to theories and concepts. And lastly, you need to have a thinker's book. In which you have written everything what the thinker has talked about, who supports him, who is against him, what are the phrases or what are the statements they have given against each other. Like for example, the questions always repeat. Like if we talk about IGP, the question will always be there about party politics. The question will always be there about caste census. The question will always be there about women and women reservations or women power. So these kind of themes will keep repeating in PSI. So make sure these kind of things you already know, and then to substantiate, you need to have thinkers. If your thinkers are missing, your answer is like GS, and that will not fetch you marks. So make sure that you have that thinkers digest created for yourself. Okay, and make it topic wise. For every topic, you need to have 3 positive, 3 negative. Okay.
Sir, does your optional affect the course you get, or is it optional?
Yes. So I think, as I said in the start itself, almost everyone scores on an average marks in GS. The differentiating factor is your optional. So make sure that your optional is that ready that you can easily score close to 300 score, and that will take you in the top 100, top 200. So if you see the marks differences, the difference between the rank 150 to rank 700 is somewhere around just 40 to 50 marks. And that usually difference is between essay and optional only. Usually.
No. So as in, does your optional subject define the post you get? Or
No. That has nothing to do. That's about your preferences. You have to, in the DAF, in the detailed application form, you need to give your state preferences as well as your service preferences. So based on that and based on your ranking, you will get the service allocation.
So you can choose any optional subject, but it doesn't.
Yes. Anything with respect to prelims and mains, then we can talk about the interview. Any doubts? Let's go to the interview phase. So for me, interview was one of the, I used to tell myself that interview is something that is strong for me. I used to keep telling myself, I don't know why, but I used to. So, but on the day of the interview, frankly, I was quite nervous. And walking into that hallway of Dholpur house, you have to literally drag your feet. And the pressure is that you can really hear your heart thumping right out of your chest. So, but that feeling itself is exquisite, and I hope majority of you can have that feeling, which I could feel right there in the UPSC Bhavan. So the interview was quite cordial. The members were quite pleasant and they were very receptive. But that's the point. That's their job, to try to see you, try to make sure that you open up. They won't stop you, they won't interrogate you. And let me tell you one thing, whatever you see on YouTube, any of the mocks, they are negatively related to the final interview. Okay, not even 1% is the interview how it goes. So when they ask you questions in such a subtle way, and they'll make you comfortable. They'll offer you tea, a biscuit, everything. And they will make you feel that you're home. You're not sitting in front of people who are there to judge you. And once you start speaking, they will not stop you. They won't question what you're saying. They won't even tell you that you're going wrong or this thought of yours is not accurate. They'll just sit. That's the reason a lot of aspirants, when they come out, they don't really come to know that they have answered. They say, "Acha gaya," and then the marks come out, and then they are low. Then they don't really understand what went wrong, because over there they are simply judging you, and they won't stop you while you speak. And if you're speaking something wrong or something that is not accurate, not in the legal format, then they will reflect in the marks. So for me, the first question, I'll answer that one question also. Do you need to answer each question? The first question that was asked to me was, what do you understand by CBRN? Anyone? CBRN. Okay, that was my reaction take. Sitting right there. So, sitting right there in the chair, first question, and I'm not able to answer. Still trying to think as hard as possible. कि CBRN है क्या? Finally, I said, I'm sorry, sir, I do not know. Then they went ahead to explain it, and the first word that he said about CBRN made me smile, because CBRN का first word is chemical. Anyone has any answer right now? Second word is biological. Sorry? R. That is right. So CBR is chemical, biological. Yes. And N? Sorry? That is correct. So these are the types of attacks or threats that we have to know. And the moment I heard chemical, I had a smile on my face, and even sir realized that I do know the answer, but it's just CBRN का नहीं समझ में आया. So then my interview started by saying I don't know. So I think it's okay to say I don't know in an interview, and if you are not sure of the answer but you want to try, you can always ask for permission. Like for example, they asked me a question with respect to some company, and because my MBA background was there, we had a
discussion about the stock markets also. So he asked me something from the company, and I said, I'm sorry sir, I'm not sure, but can I take a guess? And they allowed, they permitted, and that's when I took a random guess, and he smiled back at me and said, you are correct, you didn't have to take a guess. So that's when this kind of interaction, they are very interactive, they are very cooperative in this kind of things. For me, it was a good, I mean, at that point of time, they had a debate with me, extempore debate right there in the hall. So they gave me a topic and they asked me to speak over it. And the first, the point that they asked me to speak about was hire and fire policy of Government of India. So they asked me to speak for 30 seconds and give us at least 6 to 7 points. So when I gave them, they rebutted and they asked me to stand ground. So basically to prove that my points are better than yours and I think my side is winning. So I had to again rebut what they had said, again 5-6 times, 5-6 points, and then they rested their case saying okay. Then secondly, they asked me if at a personal note, do I support this kind of a policy. Now this is a place where you may just open up without even thinking, okay, personally बोलना है तो ठीक है. But don't forget that you're there for an interview, so you have to be at your absolute best. And if you don't, so if you're doing something professionally, you have to believe it too. I believe. So over there also, I supported what I stood. I gave pointers as, and then there were a few questions about Maharashtra. They asked me about the farmer distress. Then they asked me about sugar industries. They asked me about the droughts and the monsoons. And then we moved on to India, China, India, Pakistan, India, Nepal, India, Bangladesh. They asked me about the porous borders of Bangladesh. They even went to the extent of asking me that what are the smuggled in as well as smuggled out items or products or things from India, Bangladesh border. So I could remember that what are all things smuggled in, but smuggled out to kahan yaad aa raha hai. So I took 5 seconds pause. I said, can I take a moment, sir? So if anyone can answer that, what are the things that are smuggled out of India through Bangladesh border? Anyone? Gold. Okay. Sorry? They laugh at the answer, I think. Anyone? It's cattle and women. I did answer that, cattle. I could not remember that women are also smuggled out. So when I said cattle, they immediately asked me why. Now we have to know the background of it, why cattle are taken out of country illegally. Then once that was answered, they immediately asked me that is anti-slaughter bill a national bill or a state level bill. So you need to have all these connectors ready in your head. You need to have understanding of a topic in a holistic manner. And once you know this kind of things, once you read this kind of PRS India का site देख लिया, उसमें जितना भी नए legislations pass हो रहे हैं, या फिर reading about what the government is doing, then you will come to know what this kind of things in holistic manner. And that's the reason I have asked you not to rely simply. You can have it as a supplement on any of the class booklets for current affairs. Make sure you read primary as Indian Express or the Hindu and supplement it with any monthly magazine. Okay, so holistically connect करके पढ़ना है. Okay, so make sure that you do that. And questions in interview are always going to be anything and everything. They may also come from your hobby. Like for me, there was not even a single question from hobby. But I know few people, their entire interview was on hobby. Okay, so one of my friend when he went inside, he was asked, "यार क्या पूछे हम यहाँ?" That was the first question. क्या पूछे तुमसे? So how do you answer this kind of a question? He said, "Ask me about my hobby," and then the discussion went on for 20 minutes of the 30 on hobby. Okay, so you have to be ready for anything and everything over there, and you can't really judge how they are going to mark you. So having any post-dated discussions that I will score this much and I will score that much is worthless. Only they know how much they have given you. And frankly, if anyone would have asked me that, did you consider getting 200 plus? I don't think. was hopeful for a 180 plus score, but looking at the score of 201, I was delighted, frankly. So interview is a test of your personality. I think after 10 minutes inside the interview, they do not look beyond. After that, they get relaxed and they start asking you random stuff. But if you keep them entertained till the last, like for example, for me, it started from this security, internal security and everything. Then we went to international relations. Then we went to Maharashtra. Then we had 15 minutes discussion on risk advisory. Then we had a discussion on stock markets in India. Then we had a discussion on management, disaster managements in India, different disasters, not just disaster managements of physical, environmental nature. We were also talking about accountancy disasters. Then we were talking about companies that have shut down because of all sort of frauds. So these kind of things also come into picture. So they were looking forward at my DAF and they were referring it to that. What all have I done? So your DAF also needs to be interesting. So you may have a hobby which they may like or they are keenly interested in. Then they will ask questions about it because they are interested in it. And 15 minutes, for every 15 minutes there was a different topic. So till the last, the interview went in a very high octane fashion. So I think that also helps you score more marks. If they get bored and they are not having questions to ask you, then what is going to happen? One of the last questions that they asked me was, which is one of your favorite books and what is the core message in one single line? So I did talk about The Alchemist and I gave the entire summary in one single line, the main principle, and then they were like, thank you Kanishk, thank you for being here. That's it. And the moment the interview was done, the sigh of relief was there and I immediately rushed out and then the photo session started. Okay, questions on interview if anyone? Yes.
I have a question on the result. Because of reservation, there is different cutoff for different like general OBC and ST. So what is the chances of selection? Is it the selection chances and rank?
See, right at the start only, they present the number of seats for every category that is available. Okay, so once you come in the merit, that is not going to hamper it. But the service allocation will have its own allocation in a different fashion. So that is something that you will have to look after at every advertisement. Now the seats have come across almost 1200, 1000 and 1200. There was a time when it had gone to 600 and 700. So at that point of time it was difficult because the cutoffs were going high. But I think now it's okay because 1200 seats are there, almost everyone gets enough seats.
Sir, interview panel च्या हो मध्ये हो मिळवणं गरजेचं आहे का?
You can take a stand. Frankly, I had different views with my panel. That's the reason I was more worried. But luckily, I could take them on my side, saying that yes, my side can also be right. So you need to have that grasp on your subject or what you're talking to tell them that this is something that I believe and this is something that you cannot completely ignore. I also do hold some value of truth. But if it's very sensitive to the government, I would suggest otherwise. Anyone else? How many of you have started making notes? See, just because I'm asking or hath uthana aisa nahi, just be truthful. I'm not here to judge you. How many of you have started making notes? Do you face a dilemma of making, how should I make pre-specific and mains specific? Yes. So isn't that a doubt? Okay, so what I used to do was, prelims साठी जे notes बनवायचो त्याच्यामध्ये फक्त छोटे छोटे facts असायचे. Single word facts. Now what do you understand by single word facts? Keyword list बनवायची आपण. त्याच्यामध्ये तो कीवर्ड बघितला तर त्याच्या आजूबाजूला आपल्याला सगळ्या गोष्टी आठवल्या पाहिजेत. बट मेन्स मध्ये असं करून चालणार नाही. प्रीसाठी हे वेगळे नोट्स झाले. हे नोट्स तुमच्या कॉमन एनसीईआरटी नोट्स मधूनच येणार. ठीक आहे. आणि त्याच्यामध्ये तुम्हाला डायग्राम्स बनवून ठेवायचे जसं की क्रोनॉलॉजी असेल, डाऊन साऊथ, डाऊन अप, म्हणजे काय काय इव्हेंट्स कसे कसे झाले, कुठल्या कमिटीमध्ये काय झालं आहे. सो बेसिकली स्पेक्ट्रम वाचताना मी फक्त समरीज ते फक्त समरीजचे प्रिंटआउट काढून झेरॉक्स काढून मी एक बुकलेट बनवून ठेवले. बोर झालं, ते समरीजचे पेजेस उघडले, फक्त एक टाइमलाईन वाचून घेतली. व्हॉट हेल्प्स की तुम्हाला परत परत ती स्टोरी लाईन लक्षात राहणार. मग ह्याच्यामध्ये काय इम्पॅक्ट, कॉन्सिक्वेन्सेस, वे फॉरवर्ड हे सगळ्यांचे फक्त फ्लो चार्ट्स असले पाहिजे, नो वर्ड्स पर से. आणि हा डिफरन्स असेल तुमच्या प्रिलिम शॉर्ट नोट्समध्ये आणि मेन्सच्या स्क्रिबल्ड नोट्समध्ये. नाउ हाऊ टू मेक नोट्स विथ रिस्पेक्ट टू आन्सर्स. सो आपण एक थीम अनालिसिस बद्दल आपण बोललो होतो. नाउ व्हॉट आय वॉन्ट यू टू डू इज तुमचे जे पण PYQs आहेत त्यांचं बुकलेट मिळतं मार्केटमध्ये, ते घेऊन या आणि प्रत्येकाचं थीम अनालिसिस करायचा प्रयत्न करा प्रत्येक इयरच्या पेपरचा. रेकमेंडेड 2014 ऑनवर्ड्स 2014 पासून सगळ्यांचा. ट्राय टू फिगर आउट त्याच्यामध्ये काय काय थीम्स आहेत, कुठले कुठले कॉमन आहेत, आणि जे लेटेस्ट आहेत 2020 पासून 2024 पर्यंत जे लेटेस्ट पेपर्स आहेत त्यामधनं प्रत्येक टॉपिकचे 2 किंवा 3 प्रश्न घ्या अँड मेक अ लिस्ट आउट ऑफ इट डिफरंट सेपरेटली, आणि हे A4 साईज मध्ये सॉल्व्ह करायचे. आता ह्याच्यामध्ये तुम्ही तुमचा जे आन्सर पण आहे त्याच्यामध्ये मॉडेल आन्सर कुठला टॉपिक आहे ते लिहून ठेवता. त्याच्यामध्ये तुमच्या स्टॅटिस्टिक्ससाठी राईटला थोडीशी जागा ठेवायची. सो ज्या वर्षी एखादा नवीन स्टॅटिस्टिक येईल किंवा कुठला स्टॅटिस्टिक्स असेल किंवा कुठला तरी नवीन पब्लिकेशन असेल, वेल नोन पब्लिकेशन, जसं ट्रान्सपरन्सी इंटरनॅशनल झालं किंवा IPCCचं झालं किंवा युनिसेफचं कुठलं आलं, त्याच्यासाठी जागा ठेवायची. इंडियाची रँक लक्षात ठेवायची गरज नाही, पण त्यांच्या रिपोर्टचं नाव दिलं किंवा गव्हर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडियाचा एखादा रिपोर्ट असेल, ठीक आहे, तर त्या ह्याच्यामध्ये इंडियाचं काय रँकिंग आहे किंवा प्रोग्रेस कसा आहे त्याच्यासाठी लक्षात ठेवायचं आणि तिथे लिहून ठेवायचं. सो दॅट व्हेन यू टेक दॅट डॉक्युमेंट इन हँड, तुम्ही स्टॅटिस्टिक पण वाचणार आहात. स्टॅटिस्टिक्स वाचल्यानंतर तुम्ही इमिडिएटली त्याचं इंट्रो, मेन बॉडी आणि कन्क्लुजन पण वाचलं. कन्क्लुजन मध्ये युजली आय विल रेकमेंड गव्हर्नमेंट पॉलिसीज, नीती आयोगचे डॉक्युमेंट्स आणि गव्हर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया किंवा प्राईम मिनिस्टर ऑफ इंडियानी बोललेले जे भाषणांमध्ये वेगळे वेगळे विजन्स असतात किंवा जे की वर्ड्स असतात, जसं आत्मनिर्भर भारत, दिस इज अ की वर्ड. यू कॅन यूज इट इन द GS3 पेपर ॲज मच ॲज यू वॉन्ट. ठीक आहे, विजन 2070, यूज इट. विजन 2047, यूज इट. सो दिस बेसिकली co-relates the government's actions currently with its vision in the future. Okay, so this is something that you need to start inculcating right away. And once you have that model answers ready, ते स्टेपल करून ठेवून द्यायचे आणि कीप रिवाइजिंग इट नाउ अँड देन. स्टिकी आपण जसं स्क्रिबल्ड नोट्स सोबत बघत होतो तसं ह्यांनाही बघत राहायचं. दिस विल कीप जनरेटिंग द सेम थॉट इन युअर माइंड की या आन्सर मध्ये न्यूजपेपर वाचताना काहीतरी पॉईंट दिसणार, तो लगेच लिहून काढायचा किंवा मनात लक्षात ठेवायचं की इथे आपण हा पॉइंट ऍड करू शकतो. दिस विल हेल्प यू इन द लॉंग रन बिकॉज वेन यू आर फायनलायझिंग, प्रिलिम्स क्लिअर झाल्यानंतर तुम्ही जेव्हा तुमचे एक्झाम नोट्स, एक्झाम आन्सर कीज तुम्ही फायनलाइज करताय, यू कॅन यूज दिस सेट ऑफ आन्सर्स टू फाइंड आउट विच इंट्रोडक्शन, विच कन्क्लुजन is going to work for you, and you can write it down in your final answer sheets, and you can carry that towards the exam, read it in the exam week, and तसंच्या तसं तिथे लिहून काढायचं. आणि तो स्टॅटिस्टिक्स तर आत्ताच घेतलेले आहेत, सो त्याच्यातही अपडेट करायची गरज नाही. and then you can supplement it with some other class mains booklets, and then you can use it just as a reference, value addition to your paper, and then keep writing the answers. ठीक है, once you start writing for 3.5-4 hours every day, तुम्हाला एक स्पीड येईल, एक प्रेझेंटेशन येईल, तुमचा पेपरही टाइमली फिनिश होईल, and that will help you to fetch marks which are enough to clear mains. इंटरव्यूच्या प्रिपरेशनसाठी there are a few things that I will recommend doing from now. Firstly, communication. Effective communication is a skill that cannot be acquired within a period of 2-3 months. It takes at least a year or maybe more. So how do we effectively communicate is firstly to have a structured thought process. So sit with your peer group, when you give each other a topic, so try to go in a flow with an answer. Point number 1, point number 2, point number 3. एक structure बनवून मग बोलायला सुरू करा. Over a period of time you will have a habit of making sure that everything that you say is in a structured manner. That will give a effective communication and clarity of thought. This will help you to even communicate with the examiner. Secondly, reading aloud. Basically, after to me, majority of you will have English as a interview language or main language. So, having the right words to use in the exam interview set is also another thing. You cannot have मध्येच तुम्ही असं informal language नाही use करू शकत. So make sure त्याची practice कसं करणार, न्यूजपेपरची लँग्वेज वाचायची in front of a newspaper, sorry, in front of a mirror. So once you start doing that, तुमचं punctuation, तुमचे stops, तुमचे breaks आणि moreover तुमचं clarity of voice किंवा pronunciations will improve significantly. This is something that you need to do at least 3-4 months before the interview. आणि thirdly, analysis of DAF. So DAF साठी तुम्ही आतापासूनच हॉबी वगैरे काही ठेवू शकता, जे तुम्ही तुमच्या DAF मध्ये टाकू शकता. किंवा तुम्ही you can also start doing some sort of a, so a lot of people ask NGO वगैरे जॉईन करायची गरज आहे का? नाही, असं काही करायची गरज नाही. You can be a full-time student and still tell the interview panel, no, I was preparing full-time. They are not going to question की का नाही, तुम्हाला जमलं नाही, असं काही नाही. आणि त्याच्यामुळे मार्क कमी मिळणार आहे असं पण नाही. You may just have to tell them why you decided to be full-time in preparation, and that is sufficient for them. So don't overburden की तो NGO ला जातोय, त्याचा इंटरव्ह्यू मध्ये छान मार्क येतील असं काही. Just stick to it. तुम्हाला जे परफेक्टली जमते त्याच्याबद्दल स्टिक राहा. कुठलाही एक स्पोर्ट घ्या, कुठलाही एक मेंटल ऍक्टिव्हिटी घ्या जी तुम्हाला छान स्ट्रेंथ देईल. Like I really like to solve Rubik's cube. So मी बसल्या बसल्या टीव्ही बघत Rubik's cube solve करत बसतो. That is something that I enjoy. So you can also have something of this sort. Like people enjoy Sudoku, or people enjoy painting, drawing. Cooking was also one of my favorite hobbies that I learned over the period because that was a stress reliever for me. I used to call my friends over and I used to go like, "Chalo, मैं कुछ खाना बना रहा हूँ." So that is something that you can also start wherein your mood gets better, and that helps. इथे तुम्हाला in the long run फक्त mental health ची काळजी घ्यायची. Mental health सगळं ठीक आहे तर मग एक्झाम क्लिअर करण्याचे पण चान्सेस वाढतात. ठीक आहे, दिस इज समथिंग फॉर इंटरव्ह्यू. अँड लास्टली इंटरव्ह्यू मध्ये डोंट ट्राय टू बुलशिट देम बिकॉज दे आर व्हेरी सिनियर पीपल, दे आर व्हेरी हायली एज्युकेटेड, हायली एक्सपोज्ड टू एव्हरीथिंग इन द वर्ल्ड. आपल्याशी काय, आपण त्यांच्यासमोर काहीच नसतो असं समजून जायचं इंटरव्ह्यू आणि दॅट इज द रियालिटी. सो मेक शुअर दॅट काही येत नसेल तर सॉरी म्हणून बाजूला व्हायचं, अवॉइड टू क्वेश्चन. आणि येत असेल अँड यू आर नॉट शुअर 100%, देन आस्क इफ आय कॅन टेक इट शॉर्ट, कॅन आय अटेम्प्ट इट, अँड दे विल गिव्ह यू अ परमिशन और दे मे रिफ्यूज, बट दॅट इज इन देअर हँड अँड यू विल हॅव अ क्लॅरिटी ऑफ थॉट दॅट व्हॉट एम आय सपोज टू स्पीक अबाउट. इफ यू डोंट अंडरस्टँड द क्वेश्चन, आस्क देम अगेन, सर व्हॉट डू यू मीन बाय इट. So just don't assume something and start answering because you're supposed to be an administrator and you're not supposed to assume. So, and talk about facts, talk about objectivity. Your points and your answers should have some backing, something that you have read. So one of the questions that they asked me in the interview was, do you think COVID virus was a biowarfare weapon? Anyone wants to take a shot at that? Do you think COVID virus was a biowarfare weapon? Anyone wants to give an answer? Anyone?
Yes, I can.
Sorry?
Yes.
Give a full answer. You simply can't go like yes, it was.
Yes, I do think that it was a biological weapon which was used to at least degrade the economy of certain countries.
Okay, but they may come with a rebuttal saying that China was one of the biggest hit in it, and the economy lapsed a lot. Moreover, there was an objective report from WHO which said that it was not a biowarfare weapon. How do you tackle these kind of questions then? So this is a test of objectivity and neutrality over there. Okay, so make sure that you try to think everything in objective fashion. Yes, sir.
माझा शेवटचा क्वेश्चन होता माझ्याकडून. जसं की तुम्ही आता विचारलं हा क्वेश्चन, सो जर माझ्या अभ्यासाच्या किंवा इंटलेक्च्युअलच्या दृष्टिकोनातून जर बघितलं तर माझा अभ्यास तिथे कमी पडतोय हे मला माहीत आहे. बट जर मला कॉन्फिडन्स असेल की माझ्या भाषेवरती आणि रादर दॅन हॅव्हिंग अन ओपिनियन त्याच्याऐवजी बेसिक कॉमन सेन्स लावून त्या गोष्टीतनं म्हणजे त्या मजकुरातनं काय काय आउटपुट मी काढू शकतो हे जर मला कळालं तर अभ्यास किंवा इंटलेक्च्युअलपेक्षा ही भाषा आणि कॉमन सेन्स मला किती पट बूस्ट देऊ शकतं का ते बूस्ट नाही देऊ शकत. Or is it necessary to have the intellectual regarding that question?
Uh, my professor used to say that common sense is the most uncommon sense. Okay, what we suppose is common may not be common. Okay, so when you say कि language and common sense मध्ये कितपत घेऊन जाऊ शकतं, I think when you use language and flowery language जरी use केली, but you're not presenting a picture that they expect, they will still not be happy, and that will reflect in marks. If you don't know about the topic, it's better to simply say sorry and tell them that I don't know, rather than sticking to the point and try to make up something. So if you're talking about common sense and you know something about that topic, then tell them that I know, I have a brief idea, but I'm not sure about it. Can I go ahead and can I proceed to talk about it? They may say yes, and then they will ask you questions based on your knowledge, what do you say over there. Instead of simply relying on what you know and you try to use your language ability to evade the question.
सर माझा क्वेश्चन होता की जेव्हा आपण ऑप्शनल चूज करतो तेव्हा म्हणजे तुम्ही PSIR घेतलेलं आणि त्याच्यानंतर तुम्ही त्यामध्ये मास्टर्स पण केलं, पण मास्टर्स करणं म्हणजे कितीपत योग्य असेल त्या विषयामध्ये आणि तो बेनिफिशियल असतं का?
Okay, so very good question actually. I missed out it completely that majority of us have a dilemma with respect to plan B. And masters is one of the best ways to secure a plan B. For example, if you are able to do masters side by side with your optional preparation and it's same, तुम्ही second year मध्ये immediately NET ची परीक्षा देऊ शकता. If you qualify and with a JRF, then you can keep preparing along with the JRF research and give examination. You will be earning in that period of time, and that will also help you. तुम्ही आता bachelor's नंतर first attempt देणार, master's च्या first मध्ये second आणि master's च्या second year मध्ये third attempt. जे 3 attempt झाल्यानंतर एक self understanding येते. Where do you stand in the preparation? And that self understanding will help you realize that do you need a plan B. If yes, then NET is one of the best plan Bs that you can have. You can get into research, you can get into the MEA. If you have a PSI option, you can get into any of the CSI किंवा जे पण research oriented institutions आहेत त्याच्यामध्ये. So plan B is something that you should start thinking of while you are in your master's second year, because तुम्ही already 3 attempt दिलेले आहेत. आता for example, if someone is scoring hardly 5 to 10 marks lesser than the cutoff, then I'm pretty sure that 1 or 2 things right here and there is going to clear. But if you are 70 to 80% away from the cutoff of after 3 years of preparation, you really need to recalibrate what you're thinking about your preparation. So हे एक self understanding जी असेल ती तुम्हाला help करेल की मी दुसरं alternative career बघायला हवं का. आणि मास्टर्स केल्यानंतर तुम्हाला एक अंडरस्टँडिंग येते सब्जेक्टची, जी स्कॉलरली लँग्वेज यूज करायला तुम्हाला बरं पडतं आणि स्कोर 250 प्लस किंवा 260 प्लस घेऊन जायला तुम्हाला तेवढीच मदत मिळेल. इट्स नॉट कंपल्सरी. तुम्ही स्वतःहून पर्से इग्नूचे किंवा त्याचा कोर्स मटेरियल वाचून पण तुम्ही आणू शकता स्कोर, नो डाऊट. बट तुमच्याकडे असेल, मास्टर्स केलं असेल तर तुमच्याकडे तो एज्युकेशन गॅप पण राहत नाही. Okay, so that will keep you boosted mentally also की माझ्याकडे काहीतरी आहे.
बट सर बॅचलरचा सब्जेक्ट वेगळा असेल आणि मास्टरचा सब्जेक्ट वेगळा. कम्प्युटर सायन्स माझा बॅचलरचा सब्जेक्ट होता आणि मला अँथ्रोपॉलॉजी घ्यायचं, तर मला ते ऑप्शन बी साठी तर ते कामं पडणारच नाही, मला फक्त ते ऑप्शनल साठीच कामं पडणार.
Right. I mean, in that case, see, optional, like you have the computer science, so obviously you can always rely on that and get a private job if you have to.
Yes.
But if you're thinking of doing a master's in anthropology, then I think it absolutely negates the help itself. So it's better you just stick to the course material. त्याची exam कशाला वाढवायची स्वतःची अजून? Why to pressurize yourself with one more set of examination? So it's better you concentrate completely with the course material that is provided for UPSC only, instead of simply having one more additional examination that you need to give in the month of May. May मध्ये आपली prelims पण असणार आणि तुझा masters पण exam येणार. That will be a problem. So instead, if you are thinking just in the sense of preparation and degree करायची गरज आहे का? I would say not necessary. But if you think it in a perspective of plan B, then yes, why not? And when to stop preparation for UPSC or how many attempts to give is something that a lot of people do ask me. This is a very personal choice. I think if you enter UPSC, I think 3 is an adequate number. 3 attempts, something to realize where do you stand. At the 3rd attempt, you should understand that what is wrong, can I change it, and if I can, will it work? These questions can help you realize that do I need to go for the 4th? And if you are very close for the cutoffs for the first 3 times, then fair enough, stick to it. Mains वगैरह दिली असेल तर obviously 100% stick to it. You can take a side-by-side job, वाटलं तर same scenarios मध्ये. Like I have few friends who used to check papers and they used to earn as well as study. And the same thing they used to keep doing. So it made sure that they keep on studying, be in the zone as well as earn as well. So this is something that mains qualified students can also do if they have financial problems. So 3 is a threshold for me personally because 3 नंतर तुमचं 3 वर्ष पण होतात, तुमचा मास्टर्स पण व्हायचे चान्सेस असतात. प्लस you have grown up, you have matured enough to understand what next. You can decide what next philosophy to use for your future and which roadmap to take for it. Any other questions? Yes.
सर इंटरव्ह्यू मध्ये आपण समजा प्रत्येक प्रश्नाला एक न्यूट्रल वे किंवा मधला वे वापरला तर जसं आता तुम्ही क्वेश्चन विचारले त्याला मी तुम्हाला इट्स मे बी अ बायर पण और मे बी नॉट कारण की जास्त चायनीज ऑफिशियल्सला झालं नाही आणि बाहेरच्या ऑफिशियल्सला झालं जसं की युकेचा PM किंवा एनी अदर. आणि जर आपण सेकंड हे बघायला गेलं तर चायनाची पण इकॉनॉमी लॅब झाली आणि चायनाच्या फ्रेंड्सची पण इकॉनॉमी लॅब झाली. तर आपण हा वे जर प्रत्येक प्रश्नामध्ये वापरला तर इज इट ओके ऑर नॉट?
It depends subjective, question to question based. For this question, yes, objectivity was required because if you directly say no, it was not a biowarfare weapon, you are neglecting the security of India. And if you say yes, it was a biowarfare weapon, you do not have basis to claim that. So you have to lay it on something that you can claim for. So in this consideration, yes, you could take the middle meat, but there may be cases where you cannot. Okay, so I can't think of an example, otherwise I would have given you, but there may be a case where you have to take a stand. So at that point of time you have to, and they may, just to trick you, may be standing on the opposite side. So that is something that you cannot think about the trend, what they are going to do with you and try to take a judgment call. No. Over there, try to be yourself. But abhi Delhi dur hai, abhi yahan hi hai. But make sure that prelims and mains is something that you really need to think. Interview is something that will come naturally. Okay, interview is something you don't have to prepare per se. It's your personality. Personality, darroz thoda change hona hai. And most importantly, don't get into the political debates and political fights with your peer group. That is the worst thing that you can do to your study and your preparation because you will end up wasting time. You will end up wasting time and you will ruin your friendships with them. Okay, so make sure study and be study oriented, give each other targets every single day and make sure you ask each other how much have you accomplished. Because it's a race. तुम्ही मागे नाही पडू शकत. You have to be at a pace where everyone is on the same line. ठीक आहे, असं नाही की तुम्ही आज 2च चॅप्टर वाचताय आणि तेवढंच करून तुम्ही बस करताय. Other people are studying harder and every single time you spend outside or inefficiently studying in the library, you are giving the other person chance to go ahead of you. And make sure that whatever you do, be it studying, be it walking around the road, don't just think about UPSC. That's the reason I told you at the start, have a life beyond UPSC from the start because this is something that will help your mental health to be good. Okay, if there is any other doubt, you can ask me right away, otherwise you can ask me on Telegram. Okay, मी ग्रुपचं नाव सांगितलंच आहे त्याच्यावरती I am currently assisting everyone possible. So you can follow me there and you can ask me questions there. Thank you so much for being such a wonderful crowd and wish you very all the best.
Thank you.
सो आप लोगों को फीडबैक फॉर्म दिया है, प्लीज फीडबैक फॉर्म पे मेंशन कीजिए आपको कैसा लगा सर का सेशन। सर से जुड़ने के लिए सर आपको टेलीग्राम चैनल मुझे शेयर करेंगे, मैं आपको शेयर करता हूँ उनका चैनल की डिटेल्स, और इंस्टाग्राम पे भी आप सर को फॉलो कर सकते हो, ठीक है। एक छोटा सा वीडियो है सर का, एक सर का छोटा सा वीडियो आप देख लीजिए इसको। ये सर बताएंगे आपको वीडियो के बाद। इसके बारे में थोड़ा सा बता सकते हैं?
Firstly, disclaimer: this was not done in one day. Okay, although the clothes look same, but it was not. So, जे sticky notes तुम्ही बघितले ते वर्ल्ड मॅप सोबत रिलेटेड आहेत. ऑन द राईट वेअर देवर 2 वर्ल्ड मॅप्स, त्याच्यामध्ये एंटायर GC लिऑन होतं माझं. So every single time before I went to the examination, I used to read the entire board. The entire board used to take me around 3 to 3.5 hours to read. And 2023 मध्ये त्या बोर्डमधून 6 प्रश्न निघालेत माझे. So that was one of my personal best. For 6 questions just through sticky notes and reading them in 3 hours. And तो मॅप कसा, मॅपच्या हिशोबाने कसं होतं. सो बेसिकली फिजिकल मॅप आहे वर्ल्डचं, त्याच्यामध्ये लॅटिट्यूड वाईज जे जे एन्व्हायरमेंट क्लायमेटिक कंडिशन्स आहेत ते प्रत्येक एका स्टिकी नोटवरती लिहिलं होतं. सो बेसिकली आय जस्ट नीड टू गो ओव्हर द 45 डिग्रीज अँड सी राईट त्याच्या लेफ्टमध्ये काय काय आहे. सो इन दॅट झोन आय नो की ती क्लायमॅटिक कंडिशन आहे. त्याच्या खाली इक्वेटोरियल वगैरे असं करत प्रत्येकाचं होतं. खालून असेल मेडिटेरियनचं होतं. सो बेसिकली असे सगळ्यात पूर्ण GC लिऑन मी पूर्ण त्या वर्ल्ड मॅपच्या अराउंड लिहिलं होतं. ऑन द इंडियन मॅप त्याच्यामध्ये सगळे सँच्युरीज, त्यांची बर्ड्स, त्यांचे IUCN स्टेटस हे सगळे लिहिलेले होते. सो बायोस्फिअर रिझर्वमध्ये 4-5 नॅशनल पार्क्स वगैरे आहेत. तो प्रश्न पण माझा असा सॉल्व्ह झाला होता बिकॉज मी ऑलरेडी लिहून ठेवलं होतं की तिथे काय काय आहे. मग इन द फ्रंट वेअर माय PC वॉज केप्ट, आय हॅड अ वॉल ऑफ हिस्ट्री, आय हॅड अ वॉल ऑफ पॉलिटी अँड आय हॅड अ वॉल ऑफ इकॉनॉमी. सो या 3 वॉल्समध्ये मी प्रत्येकाचे कन्सेप्ट काय काय आहेत, टाइमलाईन्स काय काय आहेत, किती पार्ट्स, किती इम्पॉर्टंट आर्टिकल्स कुठल्या प्रेसिडेंट सोबत असोसिएटेड असतील, कोणते प्राईम मिनिस्टर सोबत असोसिएटेड आहेत, हे सगळे त्या स्टिकी नोट्सवरती लिहून ठेवले होते. आणि त्यांच्याशी असोसिएटेड काय फेमस केसेस वगैरे झाले असतील ते. ऑन द डोअर इट वॉज सायन्स अँड टेक अँड एन्व्हायरमेंट. सो मी कुठलाही सब्जेक्ट रिवाईज करत असेल तर हा प्रत्येक वॉलच्या पार्टमध्ये जाऊन मी तेवढा पार्ट वाचायचो बिकॉज हे सगळं स्टॅटिकशी रिलेटेड होतं. सो दॅट वॉज माय स्टॅटिक प्रिपरेशन along with the notes. Actually, I was not knowing that I'll be having here. Otherwise, मी माझे नोट्सचे सॅम्पल्स आणले असते, ज्याच्यामध्ये मी तुम्हाला ऑनलाईन दाखवलं असतं बेसिकली मी नोट्स कसे बनवले होते. बट आय शेअर विथ निलेश अँड हेल शेअर विथ यू गाईज की मी स्टॅटिकचे नोट्स कसे बनवले होते आणि मी मेन्सचे पण नोट्स कसे बनवले होते. सो वाय आय प्रेफर मेकिंग नोट्स इज बिकॉज वन्स यू राईट समथिंग इन युअर ओन लँग्वेज इट्स व्हेरी इझी टू रिकलेक्ट अँड रिमेंबर. मेक शुअर की तुम्ही नोट्स बनवा, जेवढे नोट्स बनवाल तुम्हाला फायदा होईल. नोट्स कधी वेस्ट नाही जात. आणि वन ऑफ द एक्सटेन्सिव्ह डेडिकेटेड टायपिंग दॅट आय हॅव डन फॉर लास्ट 3.5-4 years इज समथिंग दॅट आय हॅव डन इज मेक नोट्स फॉर ऑलमोस्ट एव्हरीथिंग. माझ्याकडे NCERTचे माझे स्वतःचे क्रिस्प नोट्स मी बनवून ठेवले होते अँड आय यूज टू जस्ट गो थ्रू इट. सो माय iPad used to go everywhere with me wherever am I sitting. And there is something called as ad hoc preparation that I used to do. So for example, I am waiting for a friend for 20 minutes at a restaurant and he's yet to come. I'll simply open my iPad and I'll start reading. That's my preparation. So if I'm walking on the street, I have OneNote in my phone. I'll simply put headphones and it will immersive reader करके system होता है उसमें and it will start reading your own notes. So instead of listening to songs, you're listening to your own notes. And this is something that I used to do ad hoc. So I'm walking, I'm traveling through metro, I'm listening to my own notes. So people may think I'm listening to songs, but I'm studying only. Okay, so this is something that I did at a later stage when my notes were ready. For now, just keep writing, keep making notes, keep preparing and keep revising and start making efficient utility of your time. 10 तास अभ्यास करताय ना तर 10 तास छान अभ्यास करा आणि जसं असं वाटेल ना इनपुट आउटपुट रेशो कमी झाला गेट अप मूव आउट डोंट वेस्ट टाइम इन द लाइब्रेरी डोंट वेस्ट टाइम एट द स्टडी टेबल बिकॉज वन्स यू डू दैट यू विल हैव अ लाइफ आउटसाइड यूपीएससी एंड मेनी पीपल व्हाट दे से अरे मी मित्राच्या बर्थडेला नाही गेलो पार्टीला नाही गेलो अभ्यास करायचा होता व्हाट दे डू एट होम वी ऑल नो ठीक है सो try to have a life outside UPSC. That's how you will be successful. And I would like to thank Nilesh also. He forced me. He's my school friend actually. So I was not supposed to be here today, but he literally coerced me into this, and I'm glad I'm here. Thank you for being such a wonderful friend.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, sir. I am Sansi Galande, a student of Chanakya IPS Academy, Pune Center. I am currently pursuing my graduation as a Bachelor of Commerce degree from Maharashtra College of Commerce. And on behalf of Chanakya IPS Academy and Broadway Education Hub, it is my privilege to propose a vote of thanks. My heart is filled with lots of gratitude and respect for our honorable guest Mr. Kanishk Jamkar sir for not only sparing his valuable time but also for enlightening us with his commendable talk. Your presence today is truly a great source of motivation. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Anybody having personal question आप सर को मिल सकते हो, ठीक है? केबिन में है सर, ठीक है? और एक फोटो हो जाएगा, यहाँ पे आप खड़े हो जाइए, फोटो कर ले जाएंगे। आप आ जाइए, आप यहाँ पे खड़े हो जाइए। एक ग्रुप फोटो हो जाएगा। ठीक है, जिसको कुछ क्वेश्चन है आप आगे सर को मिल लीजिए, ठीक है? फोटो वगैरह खींच लीजिए। फीडबैक फॉर्म, आपको फीडबैक फॉर्म दिए वो प्लीज फिल कीजिए, आपके नाम दे दीजिए मैडम को, ठीक है? थैंक यू।